What is life? What does it mean to be alive, to live? We are all different people, so I'm quite sure we all have different answers to this question. As sure as I am that by saying that change is one of the few constant things in life, most of you will agree with me. And when change comes, uncertainty follows. And with uncertainty, there comes emotions. Emotions that can be good or bad, like fear, sadness. The reason why we see emotions as bad, in my opinion, is because no one told us how to deal with them. No one told us why we had them, how to use them. And because we don't like them, because we feel uncomfortable with them, we tend to avoid them. And one of the ways to avoid them is by planning, predicting, so that we may feel a little bit in control. In 2020, in the beginning of the year, I was happy. I was feeling completely in control. I had a big plan. I had planned my holidays. I planned my weekends, what skills to learn, training programs. And at work, I made a major plan. I planned what to do. I planned when to do it. And on that major plan, I even planned moments in time that I didn't knew what would happen. So I was feeling completely in control. At the end of February, the word pandemic, started to jump in the media. 3 weeks later, one day I was in the office, next day I was at home working. So one day I was in control, on the other day I was not in control, not knowing anything, what would happen. One day I was happy. On the other day, I started to experience very, very different feelings, like anxiety, because I didn't know what was going to happen, and I felt like my life was upside down. I felt fear, not because of me, but because of my loved ones. I was afraid that Mom, Dad, my grandmoms could catch it, and I was more afraid of being me the cause of it. After fear came loneliness. So loneliness, I was stuck at home for more than 1.5 months, alone, and the only person that I saw, or like close contact, was the person from Salero that went to my house to make deliveries. So one day I decided to go out. I decided to go to the park near my house. It has a very big green grass. And I went there and I lay down on the grass with my bare foot, and I was feeling the sun touching my face. And while doing that, a little puppy came and started licking my face. And it felt so good. It was really one of my best moments through March, April, May. A few moments after, the owner of the dog just called him, just because we couldn't touch each other or the dogs. And at that moment there, on the floor, with that puppy near me, the only thing that I thought was, please let him stay. And it struck me. It was that moment that I understood that I was feeling loneliness. So after loneliness came frustration, anger. In 2017, we were acquired by VINCI Energies. And that was a very happy moment for me. With VINCI Energies, the VINCI Group, it came a world of possibilities for me. And by possibilities, I say 195,000 possibilities, 195,000 people. And that moment, I thought to myself that maybe one day I could be fortunate enough to impact 195,000 people, family, maybe. And it was like as if my dream got bigger, much bigger. And that dream were my last resource, normally, when I was feeling down, when something was not so good. I just thought about it, and normally, always, everything made sense. And like magic, my motivation comes, my energy comes, it works. Now, after spending more than 1.5 months, 2 at home, alone, doing video calls from morning to night, all day, without seeing anyone, suddenly I started feeling that it didn't make any sense, that I didn't want that to my life, that I wanted something different. I ended several days of my life at that moment thinking that I wanted to quit my job, that I wanted to quit. And it was like, I thought that probably I had lost it, the passion, the love that I felt for what I do. I was killing my dream. And after frustration came shame, guilt. My patience tolerance levels decreased significantly. My ability to interact, connect, to feel empathy with the people I work with somehow just disappeared. Suddenly I saw myself just demanding results and delivery from everyone, without considering in any way what they could be feeling, what were their fight at that moment. Some of them were feeling lonely, like me probably, because they were alone. Some of them with their families and their kids and school, they were struggling. But somehow, I wasn't connecting. And I felt like I was becoming a machine. And I didn't like it. You don't know me, but I'm not like that. I'm not that person. You know, it's like, and I don't want to be that person. You know, I was so ashamed of it. I hate it. And those people with who I work, I love them. Like, they are part of my life. They are extraordinary people. And they deserved a better me. I deserve a better me. So after that moment, I decided that I would get help. That I would get someone to help me to understand what was happening with me, to understand how to deal with those emotions, to teach me what was happening, so that somehow I could see the big picture of my life again. So, who am I today? Here in front of these cameras, in front of you. I'm the result of all that, all those emotions, all those feelings, and a lot of things that changed on me. But the most important one, the one that makes sense to share, is my sense of priorities. It's very clear for me today what is important in my life. My family, my solitude moments, people, and my dream. And it's not only clear what's important, because it's basically the same, but it's clear in my head why is it so important to keep it, and why should I take care of it. So you may have tried something different in all this time, lived something completely different from me. You may have went home like I did, and somehow being more time with your kids, with your family, made so much more sense. Maybe you have lost your job. So we all probably had or lived something very different. But I'm quite sure there is something very common in all of us, that we all know today a little bit more what's important for us, what gives meaning to this life. So some of you now may be thinking, what all this that I've been talking have to do with companies and organizations? That this, that I told you, my story, it's an individual process. And you're right, it is. It's my process of change, evolving, growing. But it's not a solitary one. We are all in the same boat. So, World Health Organization is today, or since October, talking about pandemic fatigue. And pandemic fatigue is nothing more than people are sick and tired of being at home, of living like this, of coronavirus. In my opinion, they are sick and tired of no hugs, no kisses, no family, no jobs. And this chart that I'm bringing here is from US. It tells us the mental health prescriptions from the middle of February to the middle of March, increase of it. And I couldn't find it in Portugal, but I think this change that we had is global. So we may have it for sure in Portugal too, the same increased. And Portugal is the 5th country in Europe with the highest consumptions of this type of drugs. So, and with all this context, with pandemic fatigue, with depression, anxiety, insomnia, with feelings like fear, frustration, loneliness, we companies are asking to our people to change fast, to adapt, to be resilient, to feel motivated, to be energized. Something that I think is very difficult to achieve in this context. So how, as a company, can we do something to support them on that? What can we do? And my answer to that question is, I don't know. There's no 100% result for sure. There's nothing that I can tell you now that I can tell you that it will work. Because we never did it. We never lived this in our lives. At Actions in March, we changed a lot. We did mindfulness, gym sessions, webinars talking about positive psychology, and we did neuro-linguistic programming, this is it, so that we could help them to deal with the situation they were handling on hands. But now we are different. The situation is different. It's not the same, so we need to do something different too. And we are doing it. We launched 2 weeks ago a program that was made by our human development team, a policy about flexible work. We have a team working in new training programs to help people know how to deal with all the situations, with their emotions. We have another team thinking about new initiatives day by day so that we can help them to feel motivated and to support them to feel energized. Now, if you ask me, will it work? I don't know. Some will, some won't. But what I'm sure is that this pandemic came challenging us to accept our humanity, to accept that we are not perfect, to accept that we have flaws, to accept that we also have gifts and dreams. And we can help our people just by connecting with them, listening to them, supporting them with new tools so that they can deal with all these new emotions, all these new feelings that are arising, so that they may feel energized, motivated, so that they can change fast, so that they can be resilient. This pandemic came as a call to action, to care, a calling to HR, a calling to people, department, to have a new role, to care, to be side by side with business, caring about our people, embracing this uncertainty, and putting people in the first place as the most important thing that our organization has. And I want to end this presentation by offering you a question, something to think about later. Today, I'm here with 2 pictures in front of me, one for my mom and me on holidays last year in June, and another one taken in January in the maternity when my younger nephew was born. That picture has my sister, my brother-in-law, and my 2 nephews, Sebastião and Pedro. And 10 years, 20 from now, when they ask me, what happened in 2020? What was your role? I want to tell them that it was scary, that we felt fear, sadness, and a lot of other emotions, that a lot of people lost their jobs, that were like our human nature was like challenged by no kisses, no hugs, no family, social distance. And I also want to tell them that this pandemic came and we believed that it would be possible to use this moment of change to create something better. That even not knowing how and what we could do, because we believed it, we made it happen. We changed and created a better world. And I want to tell them also that I made part of that moment, of that change, that I was part of the people that believed it too. Now, 10, 20 years from now, when your son, your daughter, your nephew, niece, your grandson, your granddaughter ask you about 2020, how was it? what is it that you want to tell him? How do you want to answer that question? What moment, what memory do you want to build today to share in that moment?